I figured, like, if early on, if I began to rewire their brain and their thinking and their behavior such that when they have these experiences early, so that when they are adults and they go off in life, the willingness and the ability to take risks, to feel a sense of self-efficacy and saying like, yeah, I know I can figure it out, the perseverance, regardless of whether or not they choose to be an entrepreneur, that they're going to be successful.
This is The Fighting Entrepreneur, the podcast dedicated to entrepreneurs looking to change the world. Learn how to start, build, and scale a business in today's highly competitive business environment. Here's your host, The Fighting Entrepreneur, Anik Singal.
What's up, you crazy fighting entrepreneurs? It's your favorite person in the whole world, Anik Singal, back with yet another episode, and one I'm really excited about because we've never covered this topic. And so the episode is called How to Raise Your Kids to Think Like an Entrepreneur and Hopefully Become an Entrepreneur. Now, I don't have any kids. I'm officially on the record. So for me to teach this I would be highly out of integrity. But I found someone and have been recently working with and supporting someone who's amazing. Her name is Tamika, and she is here, and she does have kids, and she is raising them to be entrepreneurs. Tamika, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited.
I am too. This is going to be fun. So, look, you're going to get very, very tangible advice. So get ready to take notes. She's going to teach you how to raise entrepreneurs because they're doing it, and I've met their kids multiple times. As a matter of fact, we just had a meeting where we were talking about a business fair that she's doing and how Lurn can help and facilitate and do whatever we can. And the kids were in the room and they were the final say. We made sure that when we were done, we said, does that sound good for you? And they said yes. And at a couple points, they gave really good feedback. So I love it. And I think every parent listening would love for their kids to be able to go through that. As a matter of fact, I wish my nephew, he's on the other side of the country, but I wish he could be here and participate. Although I would be then that annoying parent at the business fair. So we're going to have a great time. Remember, go to anikpodcast.com, A-N-I-K podcast.com. We're going to give you some links and there's going to be lots of notes. You'll be able to grab all of them at anikpodcast.com. Make sure you tell all the other parents you know that have kids that are between the ages of like 4 or 3 and... I would
say typically, I really focus around 5 to like 15.
Perfect. So anyone you know who has kids between 5 and 15, they need to listen to this episode and do everything that is said in this episode. anikpodcast.com. And then, of course, remember, Lurn.com. Are you going to be a part of the movement or are you going to sit by and watch it? We're going to put 10 million entrepreneurs in the platform. This is your opportunity. Go to LURN.com. It's absolutely free to join. We have now over 100 courses in the platform and tons more pouring in. And guess what? As of today, we even have courses for kids, which is awesome.
Families.
I'm so excited.
Yes.
We'll talk more about that at the end of this episode. But yeah, so make sure you get over to Lurn.com, LURN.com. Tell all those parents about it too so that they can get themselves and their kids into LURN.com. All right, Tamika, we do have a tradition here at the podcast.
What is
so
it?
If you don't mind raising your right hand and repeating after me.
Yes.
I gotta remember my own tradition. I, Tameka Montgomery.
I, Tameka Montgomery.
Do solemnly swear.
To
tell the truth and nothing but the truth.
To tell the truth and nothing but the truth.
And to teach all our fighting entrepreneur parents how to raise entrepreneurs.
And to teach all of our fighting entrepreneur parents how to raise entrepreneurs.
Yes. All right. I love it. Very, very cool. Well, listen, I have to read your title because it's a very cool title and it's official signing. So Tamika, the way we met was a mutual friend, and she introduced us because Tamika's past job, I guess you could say, was Associate Administrator of Office of Entrepreneurial Development for the SBA. Right now, let me. When she said that to me, I was like, "What?"
It's long.
But then she said to me, she's like, "Yeah, I was appointed by President Obama to represent mostly all the entrepreneurial education that happens for the 22 million small businesses in the United States of America." And that's when I thought, hey, that's kind of what I like do. My company's called Lurn. Like, we should talk. And it's been a big dream of mine to teach entrepreneurship to children. I love the topic, and I feel like more kids should learn it, and they don't teach it in school, and it drives me nuts. I remember in high school when you do like this whole career survey, and entrepreneur is not one of the options.
No, it's not.
It's like it's completely ignored, and so I think it was years ago I started thinking about it, and I don't know what to do. I don't have kids. I don't know how to go about it. And then when we met the first time, you brought your kids with you. And then you're like, oh, we homeschool them. And, I'm very passionate about teaching them entrepreneurship. And I was like, whoa, that is cool. So how do you do that? And then you started telling me all these things that yourself and your husband do. And I remember back then thinking, I think we talked about it right within the first 10, 15 minutes that we ever met. And I was like, please, we've got to bring your knowledge to Lurn, because this doesn't exist. And I'm not knocking any of the stuff out there. And definitely this isn't Tamika's words. These are my words. But the stuff out there ain't good. I don't like it. So, but now we're going to be talking about an awesome guide, an awesome workbook, an interactive workbook that Tamika and her husband have put together that is just so good. So, Tamika, thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you for giving this time to us. And just thank you for leading the way in this. Because I think, as you've also found, there are so many parents who want this. Mm-hmm. Nothing really is out there for it. Mm-hmm. And, the school system's certainly not helping. And I haven't seen any change in that area myself. Yeah. So let's dive right into round number 1.
Perfect.
Because I honestly have never asked you this question.
Yes.
So round number 1, Tamika, how the heck did you end up as the Associate Administrator of the Office of Entrepreneurial Development of the SBA?
Yeah,
What's your background?
Gosh, yeah. So in the 2001, actually, I was in Colorado, which is where I'm from, and I started a business incubator. So that was actually at the beginning of kind of the business incubation movement, where people didn't really know what incubators were. So I started a business incubator in Northeast Denver. And so that's how I really got into the entrepreneurial space. We had a 26,000 square foot facility. I designed the program, recruited all of the companies in there, and I did that for a few years. And then from there, moved over to run the Small Business Center at the Denver Metro Chamber of Commerce. And it was while I was running that organization at the chamber when in 2012 it was named the #1 in the nation. So SBA supports about 1,000 small business centers across the nation.
Wow.
And in 2012 the one that I ran was named the #1. And I used to say it's the #1 in the universe, So anyway, there was an event where there was a high-ranking public official from SBA who was traveling to Colorado. So I went to the event and I said, hi, I'm Tamika. I run the #1 small business center in the world, And he was like, okay, who are you? And so we got to talking, and through that relationship, we just met and we kind of resonated with one another. And so I went to DC to accept the award. He was like, when you come to DC, let's chat, because I just think you would be great for the agency.
Yeah.
So we chatted and got the award, and then went back to Denver. And I had actually left the Small Business Development Center because I had been there for about 7 years and was ready for a change, and was appointed to be the executive director of the Denver Leadership Foundation, which is a business civic engagement foundation. So I became the head of that. And it was while that happened that I got a call from him, and he said, hey, remember when I said that I thought you would be really great for this agency? He said, the president has just gotten reelected. So that was so when he called me, it was in about August
2011?
2012.
Okay, 2012.
2012.
Yeah.
And he said, I would love to just have a conversation with you about, some things. And at first I was like, no, I'm sorry. I got my dates wrong. So I started my new job in August 2012. Then I heard from him. He reached out to me in 2013. Is what it was. He reached out to me in 2013. So I had not been on my job for a full year when he reached out to me. And after the conversation, I went out to DC, met with the president's personnel office, all of kind of the political appointees at the Small Business Administration, and that happened in about March of 2013. And then by June of 2013, they offered me an appointment, and by August of 2013, I had started in that role.
That's so cool.
Yeah, isn't that crazy?
Yeah, how the story develops.
Yeah.
So, in my head, I have to ask this. Do you get to just sit around a table with President Obama?
I
and just
wish.
Chit chat, entrepreneurship? No? Okay.
No. That would have been my boss at the time, which was the SB administrator, who's the secretary, who was, the secretary and secretary level, and her name was Maria Contreras Sweet. So that's her role.
Got it. Well, that's President Obama's loss. So.
Yeah.
Very cool. I caught something that was really interesting. You said your incubator was 26,000 square feet.
Yes, it was.
That's how big the Lurn Center is.
Is it really?
Yeah, it's 26,000
I didn't know that. Yep, 26,000.
It's like we're meant to be talking here. Yeah. So did you head that? Did you start that? Was that an entrepreneurial venture for you?
So no, what happened was when I moved back to Colorado at the end of 2000, and I met a woman who ran a community development corporation that would renovate blighted property. Okay. And there was this property that was 37 acres, and it had about a total of, I want to say, I always get this mixed, I think 659,000 square feet of space amongst like 13 different buildings. And the main building was this 26,000 square foot facility. And she said, you know what, I would like an incubator on this building. So I was like, hey, I could do that for you. Yeah, I can do that. And so it wasn't renovated. So I kind of led the completion of the renovation, designed all of the programming. And so it was a small organization. I think it was like maybe 5 of us. But yeah, it was her initial vision. And so on this, she had the incubator. She had a space where she had a bank put itself there, and she wanted like a health facility. And then in the back was industrial space.
That is so awesome.
Yeah.
All right. Well, and then somehow you ended up here on the Fighting Entrepreneur podcast.
I did, which is exciting.
Very cool. Well, we want to talk about, I think since you left as in your role, you decided to stay in the DC area.
I did.
Which is great. And what led you to then saying you want to go after raising entrepreneurs?
Yeah.
How did that happen?
Yeah. Well, you know what? I just think it's funny how life works. So back in 2000, I was actually here in the DC metro area. So I was working at the Department of Justice. I was a presidential management fellow at that time and working for the Office of Juvenile Justice and Delinquency Prevention. And, I had decided I wanted to work in youth entrepreneurship. So I quit the government because I was like, okay, this is not for me in government. So I quit, moved back to Colorado with the intention of doing and starting an organization around youth entrepreneurship. And I think it's because I didn't want to focus on the delinquency side, which is what I was doing in justice. And so but then I met the woman, her name is Bert Weston, about starting this incubator, which was adults, focused on adults. And so my whole track in terms of focusing on youth kind of went away until I had kids. And so when I had children, my husband and I were really intentional about wanting to raise kids. And we have boys who are self-reliant and who know how to take ownership and have initiative. And so we had just begun to do certain things with them, to try to foster that. And so when I finished the administration, I decided to take a sabbatical. It was like, I just need time because it's a very frenetic pace. So I took some time off. And during that time, I said, you know what, I think I want to write a book on raising entrepreneurs. And so I said, maybe what I'll do is I'll talk with families who've done this so I can learn from them. And it was during those conversations that I said, you know what, this should be a podcast. And so that's how it turned into a podcast.
Wait, what is the name of your podcast? I'm sure everyone's going to want to listen.
Raising Entrepreneurs. Easy enough.
Raising Entrepreneurs. So make sure you go to iTunes and type in Raising Entrepreneurs and listen, because we're just doing one episode, but you can listen to this. What is it, weekly? How often?
Every other week we put out an episode.
That's awesome. Very cool. Well, I love that you're doing this.
Thank you.
So just so everyone knows, we had a meeting before where you and your husband, you do this business fair. Mm-hmm. And so last year, I think it was Kelly, right? Kelly introduced us?
Kelly.
Yeah, so shout out to Kelly. Kelly introduces us. She's like, hey, this couple I know, they run this business fair for children. And, would you like to support? They're looking for sponsors. My hand was already up before she was done. I was like, yeah, that would be so cool. And I wanted to sponsor just so I could go play. Like I wanted to be hanging out with the kids. And we did it last year, and it was so much fun. And actually, I had so much fun that my only request for sponsoring this year was I don't want to be a judge. Because as a judge, I was like, I only get to participate with like 20% of the, and I can't have fun. I want to be a coach. Like I want to be there earlier and leave later, and I want to help. And such a success. Kids got to sell their products. I think my wife bought half of them.
Yeah.
Really. I mean, so we were just having a lot of fun. And then this year when it came up again, we evolved, and I said, can we use this Learn Center space and bring the kids in sooner to teach them and to help them present better, to help them, learn like basically how to pitch, which is, oh my God, what an important skill in life, not even for entrepreneurs. So we were sitting and we were working out like just what are we going to teach? It's coming up very soon. And you just had such an awesome plan. Like, it's like you can tell you've lived it and you know it. So we're going to talk about that, and we're going to talk about how you can implement what we basically spoke about. And then I want everyone here to understand, this. I don't really pitch on this podcast, but if you're watching on YouTube, I'm holding up this book right now, Beyond the Lemonade Stand, which is such a great title because my first business was a lemonade stand, right? And fortunately, I went beyond it. And so here's how you can grab this, okay? If you want the digital version of this, Lurn has published it. This is awesome. We'll be publishing so much more with Tamika, hopefully. Go to learn.com or learnworkshop.com, learnworkshop.com/raising. RAISING. There you will see the link to the virtual one and to their website to get the physical copy of it, which I highly recommend you get. We're going to be working through this today. You can also go to their website, raisingentrepreneurs.co, and support them as we are here. Tamika, let's move to round number 2.
Okay.
So round number 2, why teach entrepreneurship to kids? Why, you said you having kids changed your perspective, immediately brought you back to it. But why not just put them in the school system like everyone else does? So why are you teaching them entrepreneurship?
A couple of reasons. One is I felt like I followed the rules, right? Which was I went to school, got a good education, and then got a good job and have had professional success, right? But something it's like this thing is just missing. And fortunately I got to work with tons of entrepreneurs in the work that I did. And what I realized are a couple of things. One is a lot of people feel that way, that they follow the rules, but there's something more that they want. And being entrepreneurial is that thing that's going to get them there. However, what I also observed is that we could have like 2 people come into our center and ask for help who seemingly were at the same level of knowledge, resources, everything. You advise one person, they take that information and they go. You advise the other person and they just keep having excuses. They come back, And what that came down to me was there was a mindset issue. And so I said, you know what? I'm going to do a social experiment on my kids. And honestly, awesome. I think parenting is a social experiment. But I figured if early on, if I began to rewire their brain and their thinking and their behavior such that when they have these experiences early, so that when they are adults and they go off in life, the willingness and the ability to take risks, to feel a sense of self-efficacy and saying I know I can figure it out, the perseverance, all of those things, that if I early on began to create opportunities for them that later in life, regardless of whether or not they choose to be an entrepreneur, that they're going to be successful. Because and I know when you hire people, you want an entrepreneur. You want somebody who can take initiative.
We call them intrapreneurs.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
For me, it's like you're preaching right now. I'm getting so excited. I'm like, please, yes, this is what we need. Yes. And you're absolutely right. Because you know what happens at Learn? It's not like I give one course to one student that I really like. I'm like, you get the real course of how to do this. And then I give the crappy one to the other student. They both get the same exact course. One takes it and bam. The other, not just excuses. They come back and blame me for why they're not succeeding. It is such a mind-blowing experience. And you're absolutely right. It starts young. I think it starts. And I know for me, growing up, my dad was super strict and we had and back when I was a kid, I'm like, oh man, why can't I do this? Why can't I do that? But I have a work ethic and I have a way I perceive problems. And now I go back to, I'm like, thank you so much for building all of this into me. I have a question. Have your kids yet figured out that they're guinea pigs?
I don't know. They probably think so.
All right. Well, how old are they? What is the age range?
They are 9, 11, and 13.
9, 11, and 13. That's so cool. I definitely want you to tell one of the stories. My favorite story, and I think it was Jonathan who was telling me. By the way, everyone, Jonathan's in the studio here. So thanks for coming in and supporting. You guys are such an amazing team together. I think he was telling me the story of when your son wanted to travel somewhere.
Yeah.
Can you tell that story? It's such a cool story.
Yeah. So my son, Silas. So when we had been here a year, and so when we moved here, they were 3, 5, and 7. Okay. And so when Silas was 8 years old, I believe, my husband was going to be going back to Colorado to visit his mother. And so Silas said, hey, Mom, can me and my brothers go with Dad back to Colorado to see Grandma? And I said, well, Silas, 4 airline tickets, that's pretty expensive. And I said, but you can go if you can pay your own way. And so he said, okay, well, how much is an airline ticket? And I said, about $300. And so he paused for a moment and he said, okay. And then he said, can I sell free stuff? Can I find free stuff on Craigslist and resell it? I was like, yeah, you can. Now, honestly, I don't know where he got that from. I don't know if maybe he had seen some YouTube. I don't know. Yeah. Because I'm not looking for free stuff.
It's not like you told him the way to do it.
No, he came with his own proposal. He came with that. I don't know. Maybe he had spoken to my husband. It was shocking to me, but I was like, yes, you can do that. And so what happened was he went on Craigslist and he looked for stuff. And then my husband would go with him to pick it up. And then I would help him take pictures of it and then upload it. And that's what he did. So he did that. He also washed cars in the neighborhood. And so because, for us, it's about...
How old was he? He was 7?
8.
8. Wow.
8. Wow. Yeah, he was 8 years old. And so then he washed cars in the neighborhood. And so what we did with him was we practiced with him his pitch. And he had to go up to the doors. We stood in the background. So we were just the cleaning crew, right? Yeah. He's the boss. Yeah. So he had to go to the door and knock on the door and ask people. And we helped him with the pitch, of course, initially. But he had to do all of that. And so over the summer, he did those things. And he and his father traveled to Colorado.
That's so cool. How much did he end up making?
Gosh, well, you know what? The beauty of starting young is that people also give him stuff, right?
Yeah, of course.
So he made over $300. So he had spending money as well.
Oh, that's great. I was actually going to ask you, did he pay for the tickets for his 2 brothers to go? No, not yet.
No, he didn't. He's not that generous. Just quite yet. We're working on that.
That's a good brother right there. That's so cool. I love the story. I just do, because how many times do parents just pay for that? But such an awesome learning opportunity.
It is.
And you're right. That's an entrepreneur. What he just portrayed is one of my biggest core values at Lurn that I try to teach outside to the students and to our own team members, which is solutions, not problems.
Yes.
And he came up with his own solution. Mm-hmm. You can get as much help as you want to implement the solution, but you should own the solution and bring it. Really cool story. All right. So you know what? Let's move right into round number 3, because this is really important. Okay, so round number 3, I asked you a question when we were doing the pre-podcast interview, and I said, how do you teach entrepreneurship? And you said daily living. Yeah. And I was like, what is that? And so I saved the question, but I'm asking it now. What do you mean by daily living?
So this is why I believe that the home and families and parents and caring adults are so important to this process, because there are things that we do as parents that either foster a very entitled behavior, and there are things that we can do as parents that can foster a very independent, self-reliant, entrepreneurial mindset. So it's daily things. So for example, I have a few things that I kind of talk about. One thing that I say is make them pay for their wants. When you think about it, our kids don't want for anything, because we give them everything. So it's like, okay, well, whatever. So that, first of all, is make them pay for their wants. That's what we've done when our boys, I think when Silas was 4 years old, we made him buy his own bike. And the way he did it was, we had this thing called daddy dollars. So I made up a dollar bill and I stuck my husband's face right in the middle of it.
That's
and
awesome.
So we had daddy dollars in the mommy store. And so they would earn daddy dollars by reading books, by having good citizenship in the home, behavioral. And so I think the requirement was that he had to earn $250 daddy dollars in order to get a bike. that would translate into the funds to get a bike.
So cool.
So make them pay for their wants. So that's what we started. Secondly, I say reduce their prosperity. And what I mean by that, kids have everything. And, you know, you think about a kid in terms of the electronics. I mean, kids have thousands of dollars in electronics. So you punish a kid and you say, go to your room. They're like, okay, because I got.
That's where they wanted to go.
Yeah, that's where they wanted to go. They got everything they need.
Yeah.
So there's no want, there's no need. We also say, as you shared earlier, we homeschool. And so one of the things I say is let them be bored. See, parents feel like we have to entertain our kids all the time. And so, again, that's not them taking ownership and responsibility for kind of entertaining themselves and figuring things out. And when they are bored, creativity does not, it's hard to be creative when you're in a frenetic situation. You know, your brain is just too cluttered. And so I say let them be bored because I want to give them that space to just discover and explore.
To create.
Yeah. Exactly. The other thing that I talk about is using technology as a tool and not a toy. And so what we do with our boys is, you know, instead of just spending hours and hours playing video, we don't even have a video game player at our house. But instead of doing that, it's like, okay, well, you want to do something, then, okay, why don't you build a YouTube channel on and maybe create experiments, you know, so there's a reason. So it's no longer a toy. It is actually a tool that's going to help you advance in some way.
It's like that kid, the #1 earner on YouTube.
Which one?
He makes, I think it's $20-some million. He's a kid. All he does is he unboxes toys.
Yeah, I think Evan HD or something like that.
Name, yeah. I'm totally envious.
Yeah,
like,
yeah, I know, me too.
It's so crazy. Gosh. But yeah, that's a prime example of turning a technology into a tool.
Yeah. And then, and we were talking about this before our meeting. I'm also big on letting them lead. You know, parents, we often speak for our kids. Ultimately, what I think is we raise our kids in a bubble to protect them from everything. And so what I'm basically saying is like, just let's take the bubble off. We don't have to, our kids shouldn't have to be 18 and go out into the real world. This is the real world. And so let's just start making it happen now in our home. And you can start in their home. They pay for things. We make our kids pay taxes. So when they earn money on their own, they have to pay taxes. So we divide it up, and the taxes go to like a communal fund that pays for a communal benefit, just like taxes in general, right? And so those taxes, we may then use those funds and go on a little trip. And that, you know, maybe the taxes that they pay can't pay for the trip, but it might pay for an excursion, right?
They should listen to my recent episodes. It's about how to cut taxes for entrepreneurs. I'll make sure to. They
might want to listen to that.
I'll make sure to clue them in on it.
Yep.
But then they'll need to start buying real estate and things. So they'll come.
Yeah.
That is so cool. So the biggest question I have from that whole thing is, where can I buy some daddy dollars?
Yes.
We have to sell these at Lurn. Like, it has to be his face on them too. Like,
it's a funny picture too.
But that is amazing. Mm-hmm. You're right, because I think about my own nephews and just they ask, I give.
Yeah.
Because for me, I'm like, you know, I'm only going to see them 3 times a year. I don't want to give, but I love the idea of make them earn for it.
You want to do that. Because, you know, and sometimes my friends are like, oh, Tamika, you're so hard with your kids. But I know my vision and my sight is on the man that I'm raising.
That's awesome. In the meeting that we had, I joke, but when I walked in, I loved that they were there on their chairs with little notepads in front of them, although they were doodling half the time, but we engaged them.
Right.
And it was kind of funny. I said, well, we are here to discuss how to teach kids how to be entrepreneurs. They really are the board of directors in this, and multiple times you engaged. There was a story you could have easily told, but you asked your son to tell it, and he did a great job, and he participated, and I caught that. I was like, that was cool. And they're participating in the meeting, and they're taking ownership over it. So that was really awesome. So #1 was make them pay for their wants. #2 was reduce their prosperity. What an interesting concept. I think parents try to go the other way.
Right.
Let them be bored. That was awesome. #3 was technology as a tool. not a toy. So challenge them to use their things around them as tools and not as toys. And I love the little examples. I think I want to talk a little bit more about this in round 4 when we talk about intentional education.
Okay.
The taxes thing we've got to talk
because I have a
more
couple
about.
other things on there that I do also with the boys too.
For intentional education?
For, how you at home, what you do.
No, let's keep going. Are you kidding? Yeah.
So
daily
the
living,
other
let's do it.
thing is don't answer their questions. And so, it's like, what? So my kids are always asking me questions like, well, because our kids want our approval. And so they're always asking, well, even things that they know the answers to. It's like, the answer to this. But they're always looking to us for that validation. And what I want to empower them is like, no, you can figure it out. So they might say, well, Dad, what do you think about this picture? Do you think I should do it like this or like this? So then, what I would say is, well, which one do you prefer? I mean, what do you think you should do? And they're like, gosh, I knew you were going to say that. But it's easy for us to answer the questions because also it's quicker. It's like, I got stuff to do. Okay, yeah, just do that. Yeah. So it does take time as a parent when you take this approach, but I think at the end of the day, it's empowering to our children. So I say don't answer their questions. And then the other thing is let them be delight directed.
Okay, what is that?
What is that? Yes.
Yeah.
So we homeschool our children and just think about your life, Anik. What you do. You are led by your delights. You do the things that you enjoy. And that's earlier when I said I followed the rules, I did this, and this, but this is missing. Mm-hmm. And I think that's missing for most people is that they're not following their delights. They're not delight directed. And so what we really try to do with our boys is let them explore their delights, because it is through the exploration of their delights that they develop skills and talents, and they discover, you know what, I don't really like this that much. So and that's the beauty of entrepreneurship, right? Yeah. Is that it allows you to go deep into your delights, and that's what we're doing.
And it's to have the courage of, if they don't like something, don't force them to keep doing it, because
exactly.
I saw how many parents just push for that. Yeah.
Right, exactly.
I think in the adult world we talk about it in terms of passion. Mm-hmm, right? Mm-hmm. So for me, I get up, it's crazy. As years go, I'm getting up earlier and earlier and earlier. I'm just ready to go. Right. Like I want to start the day because I got things to do that I'm looking forward to, not dreading. So, TGIF, thank God it's Friday. It doesn't make sense to me, because for me, I don't care. Actually, if anything, Fridays suck for me, because I'm like, dang it, we have to take a 2-day break now. Like, where's my team? Let's go. Like, let's push harder. I love that, delight directed. What if, so like a question there, like what if they're not delighted by math and they don't want to do it? So how do you draw the lines?
How do you do that?
Yeah.
So here's the thing. So what you do is, and this is why entrepreneurship, I think all of the skills that you need to be successful in life, it can be learned through having experiences in entrepreneurship. So and actually, can I just tweak that a little bit?
Yeah, of course.
Writing. My boys, I don't know. I was an English major, but I'm not necessarily a prolific writer. I'm not writing novels. And, my boys don't necessarily enjoy writing. But right now, Silas is trying to raise money for Tanzania. So we're going to Tanzania, and everybody has to pay their own way. And the tickets to Tanzania are like $900. So Silas is coming up with different business ideas in order to get there. But Silas, what he likes is he likes science, and he likes doing experiments with his dad. And he likes doing experiments that go boom and pop. So I said, Silas, I was like, I know he doesn't like the write, but I said, what if you wrote a book with the experiments that you could share with other kids and stuff? He's like, I like that. So he got online, he started researching experiments. And so now he's writing, right? Because he's writing, okay, you need to do this and do that and put this together. So now he's written a book. His ebook is called Boom, a parent's guide on fun experiments to do with your kids. So he has written this ebook, and so that's been a way for me. And so now I edit it, obviously. I'm like, okay, well, you want to tweak this, you want to do this. But because he was directed by his delight in the science and what he wanted to do, then doing the writing piece had a purpose.
Yeah, I was just going to say you added a Y.
Exactly.
Yeah, you added a Y.
Exactly.
And that's so true because I hated writing too. It's my first D-. I tell the story all the time. It's the first class I got a D- in, and I was like, what am I going to write anyways? I want to be a doctor. I'm going to write prescriptions. This is useless. Right. And now I'm a copywriter. Yeah. That's my claim to fame. But now I understand writing. It's to create influence, and I like that. I like to be able to create influence in someone talking about something I love. So you're so parents, instead of shoving this topic down, this is where a parent has to go to work, right? Because it's a lot of work to figure out how to change the paradigm of the whole thing. That is so cool. I feel like we could stop right now and you should write a book about parenting. Just like straight up like parents. Like so far we've not even really talked. It's just like good parenting, like how to create like good people, not even entrepreneurs. So really cool. This is really awesome. Anything else on this particular one?
The last thing that I would say is give them ownership of things. Okay. So one of the things that we've done with our boys, and I started with Silas. So Silas is really the guinea pig, right? Because he's the firstborn, right? So
is he the oldest?
He's the oldest.
Okay.
Yeah. So he's 13. He's the oldest. So it's like he gets it first, and then the other two. Right. Exactly. Exactly. So I read this great book called "Capitate Your Kids."
Okay.
And I was like, capitate? Capitate like. I know decapitate.
I was just going to say, I thought decapitate.
Like, right, cut off their head. I do want to do that sometimes, to be honest. But actually, capitate is a medical term that means contract. And so anyway, this book is all about kind of creating contracts with your kid. And there was something out of it that I loved and that I'm doing with my boys, each one progressively, but giving them ownership. And so with Silas, it's ownership over his clothing budget. So clothing isn't a want, right? It's something as a parent I need to provide them. Now, Jordans versus some Payless shoes, there's the want versus the need. So what we did was I said, okay, here on an average year, you're going to need this many pair of shoes, this many shirts. So we kind of went through the whole wardrobe. I then had him research online how much for a pair of shoes, how much for t-shirts, how much for shorts, and kind of did this in a spreadsheet. And then we came up with a budget, a final number. Now, some of his t-shirts were like $30. I was like, no, I'm not budgeting 10.
It's like a real life budget. He's trying to slip a few things in there.
I'm like, TJ Maxx, please. And so anyway, we ended up with this final number that now he has complete control over. So the idea is, kind of fund it on a monthly basis. When he says he needs to go shopping, it's like, okay, here you go. I don't get to make the choices. I don't get to say, no, you can't buy that because it's too expensive. It's like, well, you only have this amount of money. So if you want to spend that much on that, that's fine. That's up to you. You just may not have money for such and such other piece of clothing that you need, but this is yours to manage fully. It's all you. You've
turned their life into a business.
It's the world. It's real world.
It's real world.
It's real world.
Like, so they can earn and spend more.
Yeah.
Or save, or do you so for example, a couple of things, like what about like giving back? Is that a part of the process?
Yes.
Do you because that's actually something my wife and I forgot to talk about. We wanted to ask that when we do the workshop for these children who are doing the business fair, we wanted to see if there was like at least a 10-minute little segment about just kind of trying to teach them, because it's really big for Andrea and I. We like to really teach people to give back.
Yeah.
We don't care where they give, what they give, but like to innate. Do you build that into your?
Yeah, in fact, is in the workbook. One is we talk about being a force for good. How you use your business. It's in the section where kind of your solution.
Got it.
But it's about being a force for good. So yeah. So remember, I told you we make the boys pay taxes.
Yes.
So they have to pay taxes. They have to give. They have to spend, and then they have to save. So we kind of break that all out. So yes, because the thing is I want our boys to be entrepreneurial, but I don't want them to be jerks. I don't want them to be, kind of stingy and not willing to give. We actually had an interesting experience just this past week. So I said Silas is trying to earn money, right? So he's hustling, right?
Yeah.
So he was out selling bracelets. He has his ebook that he's getting ready to put out there. And he's selling sneakers right now. Okay. So a person from church gave him like 20 sneaks, right? Jordans, LeBron James, Prada,
Whoa.
Louis Vuitton, all of these really nice shoes to sell, right? And some of them actually fit Silas, right?
Okay.
And so my mother had asked Silas, and she said, are you going to give maybe a pair to your brothers? Silas was like, no. And so, we took that as a learning opportunity to say, you know what, you were blessed with somebody just giving you all of these shoes because they want to help you get to your goal. And your brother, or, someone asks you for something, it's not gonna, you're gonna make the money that you need to get that airline ticket. And more than likely, based on the number of shoes you've gotten. We want you to really think about other people and not have this mentality like, oh, I got to keep everything. There's not enough, that scarcity.
Which most kids innately have.
Yeah. I mean, we have it as adults.
We have it. Yes, you're absolutely right. So that is so cool. So yeah, you're right. You just basically, I feel like he's going to listen to this like 10 years from now and be like, man, I was being tested on, but he's contributing to the world. He's making the world a better place. And many kids are going to be so much smarter.
I say they'll thank me when they're 30.
Well, they will. Yeah. Because I did. Right. Honestly, I thanked my dad when I was 30. When I was younger, he taught me to save. And the deal we had was, if for every dollar I put into a savings account, he would match. Because he was trying to get, because I would. It wasn't even in one hand and it was out the other one, and so he saw that trend and he put a whole pile, and lo and behold I started saving because I saw the concept of, but the other thing was I couldn't touch the money then. Once it went in the account and he matched it, then it was there and it was growing, and but I thanked him a lot for all of the things, the kind of the core behavior patterns that he helped me build in my life. Wow, very cool. So many examples of daily living. And I bet you're listening right now, and I bet you like 99% of you listening aren't doing any of these. So this is a great opportunity for implementation, execution. Again, I will take a commercial break again and again during this episode, which you guys know I never do, but I love. This is the workbook. If you're watching on YouTube, physically you can go and just go to lurnworkshop.com, LURN workshop.com/raising. And you'll see a link there to the digital version if you want to grab it at Lurn on lurn.com, or you can get the physical version. You have to have this. This is just too important for kids, even for grandparents. Get it, and you can work with your grandkids. Shall we move on to round number 4?
Sure.
All right. Awesome. Okay, so round number 4, when we were talking in the pre-podcast, the other words you brought up, which I just thought there would be a whole segment about, was intentional education. And, when we were talking and you went through all of this, right? So for example, you said Silas got these shoes, and then you asked him this question and he said no. And in my head, I'm thinking, you have to be on your toes. Like, you have to be looking at all of these opportunities to teach. Teaching is always harder than doing. So it's easier to be like, no, you will give, to your brothers, or you will do this. But teaching it's like time consuming. It's a lot of work. So as you're telling all these things, I'm like, man, that's a lot of work. And some of the people listening are thinking, I don't have time for that.
Yeah.
So and intentional education is exactly that. It's intentional, and means you're constantly looking for opportunities. So my first question was, what would you say to those parents? Like, I mean, is it a lot of time, or does it become habit? Like, how did you implement this?
It's a lot of time. Yeah. I mean, but we chose to have kids.
Yeah, it's true.
That's it. That's the thing. And you know what? Life is crazy, and I'm guilty of it at times too. It's easy to abdicate our parental responsibilities to the schools, to the after school programs, to this and that, because we're busy with work ourselves and we're just crazy. I understand that. So this isn't necessarily easy. People look at it as like, my house is crazy. It's crazy. I say it's a learning lab. It's craziness in there. But again, I keep my eye on what type of person do I want my boys to be? What type of men do I want them to be? And so in order to get that, then that means I have to make sacrifices, and I have to be intentional about these things, and I have to stick to it. So yeah.
Suck it up.
Suck it up.
Yeah, suck it up and do it. Yeah, suck it up and do it. I love how you say we chose to have kids, so just do it. But I love the fact that you're providing a framework. So at least Tamika's done the hard stuff, guys. Yeah. She's giving you a framework. go to her website. I'm sure if you have questions, is there a Facebook page, or where can someone just like say my child said this?
At Raising Entrepreneurs Podcast, people can reach out to us. Yeah.
Is that Raising Entrepreneurs Podcast? Is there a website behind it, or
raising.com?
Yeah. So raisingentrepreneurs.podcast.com.
Yep.
Or raisingentrepreneurs.co.
Yep.
Or learnworkshop.com/raising. We're giving you all kinds of solutions. Now put them into place. All right, intentional education. Let's talk about it. What would you teach the parents listening?
Yeah, so when I say intentional, I mean finding those opportunities. It really goes back to like that number one thing that I said, which is make them pay for their wants. I believe that my goal is by the time my children leave my home, that they have started like 10 businesses. And not because, my goal, I'm not about trying to raise a mogul, because honestly, I don't have an interest in being a momager. That's not what my goal is. But what I'm trying to do is, one, let them go through that process several times so that it's just normal for them. And so I believe that parents would do well to make their kids, by challenging them, to make their kids come up with a venture and sell something in order to earn money to get the thing that they want. And when you do that, we learn by doing. See, what's interesting is that in school, and which is why people have challenges in school, is that you just have to learn just for the sake of learning, right? But when you think about in real life, you wanted to learn how to write better copy. So what did you do? I'm sure you read books.
I just did.
You did.
Yeah,
you did. You learned to do. You learned to do. And so, you want to create those opportunities at home where your kid has to learn to do. So, if they want to, maybe your kid isn't into things necessarily. Maybe they're into causes. So it's like, okay, well, I want you to create a business so that you can raise money to give to this cause or to support a child overseas.
Attach the why, right? The purpose
exactly.
is so key.
Exactly.
And it's their purpose, not yours.
Exactly.
Something that they can really get behind.
Exactly. And one of the things I find is that the parents and the families that I've interviewed in my podcast is that they weren't entrepreneurs. The parents themselves weren't entrepreneurs, and so they knew how to walk their kid through the process. Their kid had a delight, right? And they led with that delight. And then they had a want. Most often they had a want, and they said, okay, you're going to have to do this yourself. And then the parent learned with the child together on how to do whatever needed to do to execute on the business.
And I think that therein lays, like, there's intention. If you have intention, there's so many opportunities in a given day.
Yeah.
There's just so many. Something as simple as, I want to buy that pair of shoes. Well, let's sit down and figure out how you could pay for it. So that is, it's really, really amazing to see. How have your children responded to this? So, like, let's give some disclaimers and warnings too. I'm sure it's frustrating for them. Like, they just want something. They don't want to have to wait 6 months while they're like earning for it, or they want to take a trip. Do you ever hear like, why do you make us do this? We don't want to do it. Or is it just part of their living and they're used to it? You
know what? They're kind of used to it. Okay. But here's the thing. My friends don't do this, right? So who have children their age. Yeah. So they have friends who have birthday parties that are like off the chain. Like, I remember we went to a birthday party. My young kid, he's like, I want a birthday like that one. I was like, yeah, that's not happening in the Montgomery household. And so, they see that other people's children can kind of just get stuff. But you know what? They mostly comment on the behaviors and the attitudes of those children as well.
So they see what it does.
Yeah, they do. And so now, all of my kids bought their own bikes. We didn't buy their bikes. They bought their own computers. We didn't buy their computers. And so for them, it's just kind of expected.
And they probably love their bike so much more, right?
Yeah, I mean,
it's theirs.
And you know what? And when they buy stuff and it breaks, they're like, oh, it's like you take care of stuff more when when you've put the effort into it. So
for the most part, they've bought into this.
Yeah, they've bought into it.
They like it. They like the ownership. And
and also it makes them determine whether or not it's something they really want to invest in. So Silas had an opportunity to go on a trip with a group last year to Tennessee. So he was selling ice cream that summer. He was out hustling, selling ice cream. But then he was like, you know what? I'm not really into Tennessee, and I don't
want to spend all this money on that.
It's $800 for a weekend trip to Tennessee. I don't think I want to do that. I'm like, that's fine.
And if you were paying for it, of course he wants to do it.
If I were paying for it, he's like, oh yeah, I want to go to Tennessee.
Yeah. Wow. So he learns to make decisions and sacrifices and understands the value of money.
Exactly.
That's a first indication he understands the value of money, which I have constantly seen from kids around me. And of course I get to be easily judgmental, right? Because I don't have kids, but I mean, I get to watch them and I'm like, they don't understand the value of money. And recently we were having this conversation about why does everyone pick on millennials so much, right? You see all these videos about millennials, this and that. And someone brought up a really interesting point. They said, well, actually it's because millennials haven't seen trouble. Like I didn't grow up in trouble, but my parents had seen a lot of trouble. So they felt very important that I know what that trouble and struggle can be. But then I'm growing up kind of not in that much struggle. So there's a risk that my children will be seeing no struggle. And I thought about that. I'm like, oh yeah, you're kind of right. Like they don't have to struggle for things.
They don't have to want.
And then when life hits you, you have to struggle. Right. And it sucks.
I saw this. I was in this mom's Facebook group, and this mom was complaining because her son had just entered his first year in college. And he was complaining to her that the $50 a week that she was sending him was not enough, and that he was raised with a silver spoon in his mouth, and that this is just not working for him, and that he would prefer to drop out of school and go back home and live with her than to have to be in college and have to live off of $50. Can you imagine?
Yeah, ouch. Yikes. Well.
Yes. So he needs to learn a little struggle.
I guess you hear that and it inspires you to keep going with what you're doing with your kids, right? Like you don't want to hear that.
Exactly.
So really the core message here is parents have to be intentional. It's every moment. You got to be on your toes, see any opportunity to give them control. Yeah. Versus you take control, be patient, give them control, support them, but let them choose their process and their way. But some things like the taxes and the giving back, that gets to be established rules because those rules will exist as they grow up.
It's real life, and just challenge them. Let them, I think we invest a lot of time in our kids in leisure. We prioritize a lot of leisure stuff, which is fine. I mean, that's good, but that's not real world, truthfully. No. We got to work and hopefully get some leisure out of that time. And so I just think we glorify it. And so that's why I said, no, challenge them. If they want something, you want some $200 pair of jeans, okay. Go get it.
Yeah. What about investing? Are you helping them kind of learn the value of that yet?
You know what? That's not something that we've done just yet. I just interviewed someone on my podcast who is talking about that. I was like, okay, that's something. So the podcast, I'm learning strategies. I'm like, okay, let me try that with the boys.
That's why I do this podcast. Right? I learn, and but I just feel like, man, if you could teach a kid compounding interest.
Right. Yes.
They're all going to be set to be millionaires at a really early age because even most adults don't understand the power of compounding interest. So, wow, very cool. So shall we move on to, I guess, round 5, the execution part, right? This is where everyone wants to. So round 5, education through execution. And so we've been talking about the intention, picking up opportunities. You gave very specific advice about daily living, right? Now let's keep diving into the execution. What else do you have that parents can start doing with their kids?
Yeah, I think that which is why we kind of created this fair, right? The Montgomery County Children's Business Fair, because as parents, our lives are busy. And so you have to make room in your schedule to do this. And so, our kids are overscheduled in so many areas. It's interesting because a couple of weeks ago, our boys went to a STEM camp, and then they had Vacation Bible School right after the STEM camp, right? And my middle son said, we only have 3 hours of non-scheduled time. He said that to me.
Wow.
Yeah, I was like, wow, that's interesting that he notices this shift where, it's early in the morning, STEM camp, come home, change clothes, go to vacation Bible school till 9 o'clock and go to bed. Do you know what I'm saying?
Well, he understands the value of time now.
Right.
He's suddenly asking, where's my time?
Right.
Which
Where's
is so
my
cool.
time?
Understanding the value of time and money. What else do you really need? I mean, at that point, you start to put pieces together.
Yeah.
So cool.
So.
And how old is he?
He's 11.
11.
He's the
and
11.
he's already starting to question what's happening to his time.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
I thought that was really fascinating.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's really about making room in your schedule. And then with the fair, which is why we created the fair, was to give families an opportunity to give their kids an experience in entrepreneurship.
Yeah, I love this fair. So I got to take a moment to talk about it. What if someone wants to just see what you're doing with the fair and kind of stalk what's going on, and maybe they could do it in their own city? What's the website of the fair?
It's MoCo.
MoCo? MoCo.
Yeah, MoCoChildren'sBusinessFair.org.
MoCoChildren'sBusinessFair.org. MoCo probably doesn't mean anything to anybody who doesn't live here, but that stands for Montgomery County, which is where we live. So, and anyone who lives in Montgomery County always calls it MoCo.
MoCo.
So MoCo, children'sbusinessfair.org. When you first did it and you told me you were doing it, right? And so I'm an entrepreneur, I'm a business guy, so I put the numbers together. So I looked at your sponsorship rates, and I quickly did the math of how much you probably make. And I understand putting on events, expenses. And I was like, man, why is she doing this? Like, it's a lot of work. And on top of that, with kids and with parents and everything. But of course, I was in. I'm like, if you want to do the hard stuff, I'm 100% going to show up to just play and have fun. But then when I showed up and I was there, I was the kid in the candy store. I was having so much fun seeing what these kids came up with. Creative ideas. The kid who took rocks, painted them.
Yeah.
And he created paperweight.
Yeah.
Right?
It was called Layla Rocks.
Layla Rocks.
Yeah.
And then you had kids who were writing comic books, and you had your son selling ice cream. It was so many different people doing so many things, and it was just it was so much fun. And then I was all of a sudden so grateful to you for doing that and taking it on. So everyone who's watching, if that touches your heart, I'm sure you can reach out to Tamika, and she will be happy to share with you how you could do something like this. And
can I say something about that?
Please.
This whole children's business fair is really like a movement. And it started in Austin, Texas, with a family who had started these schools called the Acton Schools, and they wanted a fair for their kids. And so, they're like popping up. And so we actually we went to the DC one, and interviewed the host of that on our podcast. I was like, oh yeah, because I had been thinking about doing something like this anyway in our neighborhood. And it's not a hard thing to execute at all.
So this year, you're going to have 44, do I remember that?
Yeah,
44 businesses.
Yeah,
so how cool is this, everyone who's watching? This is just something that I'm really proud of Lurn and our Singal Foundation for being able to partner with Tamika and their organization to do. 44 kids are going to have booths, and they're going to be selling their products, collecting revenue. They're going to get judged by a group of judges. This time I'm going to be a coach, so I'm going to hopefully be running around trying to learn myself, because I'm having fun learning from them. And we just get to see this little economy take place, and then people win prizes. Who of the judges vote win prizes, and I just think it's a great thing to be doing. And we're in a small suburbia area, and I think you opened enrollment and closed in a couple weeks.
Yep.
It was really fast. So imagine what you could do in your area. So Tamika, what does it take to make this bigger? I actually have had this question for you, because I want next year to go what does it take? What do you need? Is it more help, more funding, a bigger location?
Yeah. It's interesting. That location is limited, right?
Yeah. We talked about this last year.
Yeah. So last year we had 34 kids, and so we're kind of squeezing some more. Yeah. And I don't think we can actually go too much more in that location. So we need to go in a bigger location. And I think last year was our first year, and so you are the social media marketing expert, and I'm not. And I know we could do so much more in how we promote it and get people out there, because my big thing is I want the kids. I chose that location because it has a lot of foot traffic. So we want to get a space where there are going to be a lot of people there who can patronize the kids. But that requires really getting the word out there and really promoting it. And I know just my time is challenged. You know, mother, wife, I have a business myself.
You're being intentional with your kids. That sounds like a lot of work as it is.
So. And so it's a lot. But I think that, you know, in just 2 years now, I think there's so much more potential on what.
Do you have other locations in mind?
Me personally in doing this?
Have you seen anything like that? If next year you wanted to have 60?
Other locations. Yeah. You know what? When I was initially looking, I was looking in that like downtown Silver Spring area seemed to be fairly large. Yeah. I haven't scoped out recently, honestly, a larger space.
Hopefully the mayor of Gaithersburg is listening. Judd, we need your help. We need you to find us a location. How have you found the government to support this? I know we've completely gone off track, which is what I usually do.
It's okay.
But I'm curious. How has our government been? Are they helping?
You know what? They might be, but I haven't reached out to them. They might be open to it, but honestly, I haven't reached out. You know where I've gotten great support and sponsors is from business owners like yourself. Yeah. People who are out there grinding and who see the value in this, they're the ones who've stepped up and said, yeah, I want to sponsor and support what you're doing.
I bet raising money for this has not been trouble.
It's been great,
you
know. But you know what? I would say last year, you know, my goal was $3,000. That's not a lot of money. Yeah. You know, you think about what you gave, right? Yeah. You're like, okay, I gave like half of that.
That's why I did the math. I'm like, why is she doing this?
Yeah. And I hit that goal, and then I set another goal this year, and I've surpassed it. Actually, my goal for this year, and but you know what? I'm not doing this for the money,
of course.
But I want to give the kids a great experience. So we've gotten some extra money this year, so I think I can give larger cash awards. That's so last year we gave $50. I think we can give a little bit more this year. This year I'm kind of playing around thinking about getting a videographer. We had a photographer, but I think in terms of marketing it might be great to have a video of some sort. So
why can't we just provide the videographer?
I would love that.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, you're in a studio. We have.
I know there's so much here. Yeah.
I'm sure if he's available, we got like 6 cameras, so I'm sure we can have a couple of them out there for you.
Would love that.
Yeah,
Thank you so much.
Done. Awesome.
And then I guess I will just have to pick your brain more on how we can do better at marketing.
Oh, we'll get people there. Now I understand it because I experienced it. So now I understand. We will get people there. I don't think that'll be a challenge at all. That's why I'm asking you questions like, how do we make next year bigger? Let's go. Yeah. My wife always jokes with me. So I always say, go big or go home. Yes. Like, let's do this. Awesome. Well, I want to move into round number 6. And the reason I want to do that is because I want to go over the table of contents of this brilliant book you put together. All right, so round number 6, if you are watching on YouTube, bam, Beyond the Lemonade Stand. Again, I told you I would promote I don't even care. I'm not going to feel bad about pushing you to get this. And if you don't have kids, you get it for someone who does. You're going to go to lurnworkshop.com, LURN workshop.com/raising. RAISING, and you can over there you have a digital version if it's inside of Learn Nation that you can purchase, and then there's also the physical version. So we'll give you the link directly to Tamika's website, and then you can get the physical version and then actually work through this with your kids. And I gotta tell you, Tamika, this is just the beginning. I'm not done with you. We need a lot more curriculum from you. Like I want videos, we want courses, we want stuff that parents. It's so good that parents have no excuses anymore. But I love this, and I love the fact that you've done this. And I have read a few other ones. I think I shared with you. I didn't like them. I wouldn't put my own nephews or kids in the future through it. This I would. I love it. And so lurnworkshop.com/raising. All the links are there. Grab it. I want you to talk through the table of contents. What have you put in this?
So first of all, I call it Beyond the Lemonade Stand because, we, like you said, you had a lemonade stand business, and that's fine and everything. And I think it's great. But what we try to do with this is really take kids through the process that all entrepreneurs go through, but do it in a very fun and engaging way. And then the other thing is the Beyond the Lemonade Stand is really more than this workbook. because it also has a parent guide, because we believe that the parents are so instrumental to this. So it includes this workbook, you get a downloadable parent guide, and then we have some videos that further reinforce the lesson, and we have audio clips so they can hear from young entrepreneurs along this journey. So it's 10 steps to starting your first business, and we start with step 1, which is to set a goal. And this is where I say, you challenge your kids. So you find out what's important to them. Maybe they want to go on a trip. Maybe they want a toy. Maybe they want to support something. But the goal is, on that first step, is to set a goal, a financial goal, essentially, on what you want to do. So we start there. And then from there, the next step is to discover your spark. And I call sparks that thing that lights up your face when you get to do it, right? So if you tell your kid, okay, let me tell you what we're going to do today. You get to do whatever you want. What would you want to do today? And they're like, oh, you know what? I would really love to spend the day, whatever that thing is. And it puts a smile on their face. And so what we take the kids through, or parents will guide their kids through a process of really understanding kind of what are the things they're interested in, what do they like to do, and then what are they skilled at. And in the parent guide, one of the things I share is that oftentimes kids don't know what they're good at, right? They can't articulate that. I mean, even adults, sometimes we have a challenge really articulating what we're skilled at. And so what I encourage families to do is to begin to compliment their kid based on, and talk about their skill set. So for example, my middle child, he has a good eye for detail. He wouldn't know that. He wouldn't say, oh, I have a good eye for detail. But I told him that. I said, you know what, Isaiah, you have he's the one who did that art.
The artwork, yeah.
Yeah. I said,
beautiful.
Isaiah, you have a really good eye for detail. So now if you went and asked him, Isaiah, can you tell me something you're good at? He would tell you, I have a good eye for detail.
Okay.
Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so you find out what they're interested in. These are the delights, their sparks, what they're skilled at and they're talented at. And so we go there. So the goal, discover their sparks. And then we say, okay, we want you to look for problems, because I always say that entrepreneurs are problem solvers. And I drill that into my boys all the time. Why isn't such and such? Okay, well, that looks like a problem. What can you do about it? And so we want them to open their eyes to seeing, because really they're opportunities, right? So we take the kids through an exercise where they're just looking around their neighborhood, around their school, around their home for problems, looking for things that need to be solved, okay? So that's the third step. And then the fourth step is to now you want to create a solution. And the way that we look at this is that, the idea is taking the things that you enjoy, your sparks, your skills. Okay, now you have this issue. Let's mash them up to come up with a solution. And so, for example, my youngest son, Daniel, he enjoys cooking and baking. That's just his thing. He likes cooking, he likes baking. And then we recently got a dog. He had been pressing us to get a dog. So we recently got a dog. So he's also interested in pets. So he's skilled at, and when he cooks, he's also like, I would say, almost like a chemist, because he likes to mix things up together. So he's skilled at kind of mixing up flavors. He enjoys baking, and he's interested in dogs. And so we were picking out dog foods, and we had gotten this one dog food, and they said, this has a lot of byproducts. It's not good for the dog. So that's a problem, right? And so mashing that up is this idea of creating healthy dog biscuits.
Yeah.
So do you see how that's this process that we're trying to help the kids discover and work through. And so then from there, we want them to understand who their customers are. And we're going beyond the lemonade stand. When you have a lemonade stand, people walking down the street, they're just going to buy from you because you're a cute little kid.
You're a kid. Yeah.
You're a kid. Yeah. I was telling my oldest son this the other day, he's 13. I said, see, the cute thing isn't going to be working for you much longer anymore. Not that he's not cute. I think he's cute. But he's 13.
Yeah.
There was this kid on YouTube that they liked called Kid President.
Yeah, I know Kid President.
Well, they saw Kid President. They're like, oh, his voice has changed.
I haven't seen him recent.
Oh.
He doesn't look, I'm going to assume he doesn't look anything like the little kid.
It's different.
It's different? All right.
He's cute still.
Yeah.
But it's not the same.
It's not the same.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think it's important for them to understand, like, who are the people who are most likely to buy? Because they can't just say, oh, I'm 5 years old, I have this, buy it.
Yeah.
They really, at that point, they really need to know who's the right fit for what they're selling. So we take them through a process, and this is about being active and engaged. So through this, we're getting out. So it's not just that they're sitting around just filling out this workbook. It's that, no, you're going out. So like one part of this is you go out and interview an entrepreneur and find out what it's like to be an entrepreneur. And in that, we tell the parents, your child makes the ask for the interview. You be the recorder of the interview so that the entrepreneur isn't looking to you to answer their questions. Yeah. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, absolutely.
So describe your customers and go out and identify people who would buy this thing. Then we say, okay, now what you're going to do is create a prototype. Is
this number 6 now?
Yeah, number 6 is to create a prototype. And essentially what we're saying is you need to create a sample of it. If you're baking something, don't go out and bake all the ones that you're trying to sell. Bake a couple and then go to those customers and let them test it out and get feedback from them. Oh, well, you know what? I think I would like it better if it's like this. Or it might taste, give it to Coco, our dog, and see if she eats it, those type of things. So create that prototype. And if it's a service, because, it's easier to think about it in terms of a product, something tangible, but then you can also do it in terms of a service. So my youngest son last summer, he was doing face painting.
Oh,
right.
Okay.
So you can go out and test out a few designs, and people's like, I don't really like that design. Can you do it like this? And figure out, okay, how do I make my face painting designs more appealing? Test it out. And then number 7 is to begin to, so now that you've created your solution, which is your business idea, you've identified your customers, you've tested out and gotten their feedback, and now you're ready to market your business. And so marketing, our kids are bombarded with marketing. So they understand that concept, but really helping them sit down and think through, okay, well, how are you going to let people know that you're out there? If you just set up, I was driving through a neighborhood one day and I saw some kids with a lemonade stand. It was like 8 a.m. in the morning in a very suburban neighborhood, and
no one's there.
No one's there.
Yeah, no one's there.
No one's there. I'm like, okay, you guys need to figure out how to market, whether you put this on a new location, you got to put some signage, something, right? And then we talk about now you're going to manage your money. How are you going to manage your money? But one thing, actually, under the marketing, it's a couple of things that I walk them through, which is really interesting. So one of the things we say on the marketing is, not only like how much will you charge, but then how do you make your business stand out? So if it is lemonade, can you change the color? Can you add something to it? Can it be frozen? Or maybe it's a cupcake. It's a lemon cupcake. How do you differentiate what it is that you're selling to make it a little different? And, kids grow up in a space where they want to be like everyone. But in the real world, it's being like everyone is not, it doesn't help.
Did you see that story go viral recently of the kid with the sign, buy beer for $1?
No, I didn't see that.
Yeah, so he had it wasn't a lemonade stand, it was a beer stand, and had a big sign. He's a little kid, but the big sign says buy beer for $1. And all the neighbors started calling the cops saying, hey, there's an underage kid selling beer. But when the police got there, they laughed really loudly because in little words above beer, it said root.
Oh, I love it.
And it went totally viral. I've read the story in so many different places. And the kids just got this smirk on it. This picture goes viral because the kids got this smirk where you could tell he's like, I know what I did. And
Yeah.
and then the police officers actually showed up and started buying.
Oh, that's cool.
So they were buying root beer from him.
That's
because,
cool.
Yeah, it's just sorry.
Yeah, but that's that standing out.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got to stand out. And that's what I tell my kids, it's okay to be different, because your parents, we're homeschooling you. That's different. It's be okay with that. But in business, that's what you want to be. You want to be different. So that's under the marketing. And then we talk about managing your money. And so with the managing your money piece, what we do is we break it down from, okay, well, how much is it going to cost to start up? What are your startup expenses? Helping you determine, okay, well, how much will you charge? Well, the way that you find out how much you charge is you need to know how much it's going to cost you to make or provide whatever it is that you're selling, your unit cost. And then you can determine how much you're going to charge, because we're keeping that goal. We have a goal that we're trying to reach. And then we talk about, and you had asked about this, what will you do with the money? And so we talk about how can your business be a force for good? And, whether your business is you're giving money through your business, or maybe you're donating. I don't know, but how, as you look at managing your resources, how can you also think of others during that process? And then we say, okay, now it's time to practice your sales pitch. Okay, so when a customer comes, what are you going to say? And what I have found is that practicing with my kids ahead of time helps them. In fact, just recently we had an incident where my middle child, Isaiah, had decided he was going to make pancakes for breakfast. So he got up in the morning, I'm going to make pancakes. And as he's starting to mix stuff together, he realized we didn't have any milk in the house. And I was like, well, see, you always want to check and make sure you have all of the ingredients. And normally we would go to the store and get the milk. I grew up where you would go to your neighbor's house and knock on the door and ask Miss So-and-so.
Yeah.
But we've never done that. And so I said, you know what? I said, Isaiah, I want you to go across the street and ask one of our neighbors for some milk. He was like, like, really? Like, you can't just go to the store and just buy something? I was like, no, you're going across it. And so I said, do you want to practice? Let's practice. He's like, okay. So we were practicing. And I was like, I need you to smile. Hi. And his eye, I said, I need your eyes to smile too. So we practiced it a few times. And then he just stood at our front door. He hadn't even walked out the door yet. And he's pacing. I said, go. I'm like, go. And so eventually he went out the door. And also I said, well, what's the worst thing that can happen? She could say no.
Yeah.
But you know what? If she said no, it's probably because maybe she needs it for a baby. They need it for something. It's not that big
Or she's not a nice person.
Right.
Which you get to learn something then too.
Right. But that's part of the sales, when you're, I love this because our kids are learning how to talk to adults and become comfortable with learning how to talk to adults. And so that's why we want them to practice their sales pitch. So anyway, he goes across the street, he knocks on the door, comes back with a little bit of milk with a smile on his face. So he did it. And so we want them to practice their sales pitch. So we kind of give a little template. And we also kind of give in the parent guide some tips to parents on how to coach your children and practice. And then the last piece is that, okay, now you're open for business. You have the fundamental things. You're open for business. Now, where will your customers find you? Is it online? Are you going to do markets? Are you going to knock door to door? So we ask them to kind of think through how you're going to get whatever it is that you're selling to your client.
That is so cool. I'm thinking through one thing right now. Like if a kid knocked on our door and I opened and he was like, can I have some? I don't even know how I would react. Like I would be so stunned because you're right.
You don't do that.
No one does that anymore. Like no one ever. I remember when I was growing up, my mom would make me go down the street. It was like 4 or 5 houses down. And there was a neighbor that we were friends with. And I was a little messenger boy, like bring sugar, salt, milk, whatever. But you're right. I mean, you never see anyone do that anymore. So that is so cool. I really, really want everyone who's watching, I cannot stress this enough. Go to learnworkshop.com/raising. Okay. Or go to anikpodcast.com. All the links are in the show notes. And you can get the digital version. It's accessible through Lurn, or you can get the physical version also and just connect with Tamika and their operation. It's so awesome. And the funny thing I'm listening to as you're sharing this is like, even if you're an adult, you might want to go through these exercises.
You know what? It's so true.
It is so true.
Because it's the fundamentals, you know, and this is designed for, like I said, like between like my kids' age. And so, you know, if we were to create this at a higher level, it would still be these fundamentals, but the way that the content would be delivered might look a little different.
I still think you could deliver it. Yeah. If you have a Harvard MBA, please grab this book and learn the real fundamentals. Yeah. Amazing. Tamika, I want to start wrapping up. We've been going, I love it. We've been going for so long. It's been such a powerful episode. We'll move into round number 7. And round number 7 is just, everyone's listening, like, give us a few takeaways. What can parents, like maybe 3 to 5 things that parents could go right now and say, you know what, parents or grandparents can say, I'm implementing these right now. Yeah. Because maybe they don't want to go, I mean, maybe they're overwhelmed with going all in, but at least a few things they can immediately start implementing for their kids.
Yeah. You know me. My number one thing is make them pay for their wants.
Okay. Love it.
Number one thing. Next time your kid says, I want, it's like, okay.
Followed by how do you?
Yeah, exactly. Well, how are you going to get that?
Yeah.
How might you?
Yeah.
And you know, and this is, you know, I like to say the parent, you're the guide on the side, right? And so you can then brainstorm with your kid. So let's talk about how can we make this happen? You know, entrepreneurs figure things out. We learn. We don't walk in there because we know everything. It's a lot of smoke and mirrors, honestly. We're figuring this thing out. It's like, oh, you want me to do that? Okay, let me go read a book on how to, let me watch a video. Let me watch Anik's copywriting class. You want me to be a copywriter? Okay, let me take his class real quick. Okay.
Yeah, it's true.
So
that's number one. Yeah.
Number one. The other thing that I would say that we do is, I would say really find out what's that spark within your child, because this is a learning journey. And like I said, you learn to do, and I often hear parents that say, my kids aren't motivated. They don't want to do anything. They just want to sit around. There's no motivation. And I think the reason why is because you haven't found that spark yet. And so really be observant of their spark. So, you know, my son right now is into drawing. And at first I was like, why is he drawing all the time? You know, go do something else. You know, what is drawing? You know,
yeah.
But he studies it.
He's good.
And like I said, he will hold a hand like this and he's like, okay, like, how do I? And then he will watch videos. So, you know, we say technology as a tool. He watches videos on how to draw muscles. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, wow.
I don't know where this is going to lead him in life, honestly. I don't know, but that's a skill.
He's learning how to learn.
He's learning how. He came to me. He said, Mom, I want to take this Udemy class. I was like, okay. Like, wow. He researched that himself. He did that himself. He said, I want to take this Udemy class. So he took it. I was like, okay, cool. Here you go. Yeah. So when you find, so really be observant of their sparks and let them kind of go deep. You know, we had a guest on our podcast and she said something and it was like, that's true. And what she said is that as we raise kids, we tend to try to get them involved in this, and this. Like we think it's great that they're doing a whole bunch of stuff. But in truth, in the real world, you're valued based on the depth of knowledge that you have. So you know, you are this online marketing guru. That's your thing. You've gone deep in that. People come to you because they know you have that. But yet and still we're like, you know, it's okay if they go deep in a subject and you know, figure it out. It's okay.
Yeah, they say, right, 10,000 hours to master
exactly
a thing. And so I laugh. I have easily put 10,000 hours into various different parts of digital marketing. Mm-hmm. And actually what's happening more and more lately is I'm bringing myself down even closer. And I'm actually been saying, and that's what I love about Lurn, because I don't want to do that. I don't know how to teach kids. I don't have 3 guinea pigs, right? So let you do it. But I can get you in front of people, and that's my contribution. And so you're right. I love, I like running Google ads. It gives me excitement. And most people would be like, what are you, a dork? I'm like, I like playing around in the Google interface. It's fun. It's like a game for me, and I can process the data. But that doesn't mean that another kid that I'm training or teaching should do that. Great. So number 2, love it. Like one more. Number 3, what would you say?
I would say as parents, you have to just make room in your schedule for this. You got to make room in your life, I guess, really, for this. Because you had asked earlier, like, gosh, this is a lot of work. It is, but we have to keep our eye on the prize in terms of the person that we want to raise up. And when we do, these are the things that our kids will remember. Then, the shoes, the fancy shoes and all that stuff, they're not, if they're getting a big birthday party every single year, they're probably not going to remember. You're
absolutely right. I remember things like my dad putting in $1 every time I put $1 in. I remember if I wanted one big thing, it was Christmas and birthday. Right. And so my dad actually, I remember once taught me, I was overwhelmed with my wants. And I was like, and he said, you get one, pick one. And he walked me through a whole problem solving methodology to figure out, of all the things on my paper, which one did I want to commit to. And I remember that. It was like it was an exercise that I enjoyed, but you're absolutely right. It is those moments I remember because I'm still using those skills till this day. So powerful. I love it. I cannot wait for us to get even more of your knowledge into just this platform and to continue helping you do what you're doing. And we're going to have a lot of fun. We're going to shoot some videos, I'm sure, at our training for the children's business fair. We're going to shoot some videos at the business fair, and we'll put them out in our social media so you guys can see it. We're going to have a lot of fun with these kids. I get to teach the 5-step copywriting formula, I just found out today, to the kids. Like, that's a first for me, and I'm going to have a lot of fun doing that. Tamika, thank you for everything you do.
Thank you.
Thank you for you and your husband and for what you guys are doing. Thank you to Silas for being the guinea pig.
Yes.
Yeah, and I appreciate him for helping us create all this curriculum, and he doesn't even know it. He's off playing the arcade right now. He has no idea. And having said that, go to anikpodcast.com. Make sure you go leave us a great review. Come on, this is we brought you Tamika. You gotta give us our podcast a great review. So
there's something, I know you have the pow sounds, and I just want to just pow pow pow, and I don't know if you can like sync up the. I've been thinking about it every time there's a new round. I want to go.
Yeah, we can. That's the guy that could do it right there. This has been fun, and this has been something that needs to be heard. So not even for my selfish motive of, hey, spread the word, but genuinely, parents, they need to hear this. Even if they don't want to implement everything, man, they got to put daddy dollars in place. At least. That's like that they got to do. If you're watching on YouTube, come on, give us some love. Leave a comment below. Tamika took time away from her. She's been here now for a couple of hours with us, and she even say thank you to their kids because they're here too, hanging around at the Lurn Center. And just leave a comment for her. Click subscribe. Click the thumbs up icon. Click the bell icon. Tell everybody you know about this video so that they can really start to raise, and we can create basically a bit of a revolution in how parents raise children.
Yes.
How cool would that be, right?
Imagine our world and our business world, what it might look like.
Yeah. Oh my God. We needed more today than ever.
That's another conversation, right?
That's a Freedom Friday episode. That's a Freedom Friday episode. Right. But yeah, love it. Thank you. Seriously, thank you. And
everyone, thank you for your support of the fair and what we're doing. I'm so excited about what we're going to do here with
We haven't done anything yet. We have so much more to do. And so, but that gives me anxiety. So we'll talk about that later. There's just a lot we have to do. And I'm really excited for all of everything that we're going to be doing together. So a big shout out to all you kids who are inspiring your parents to listen to this. And if you're listening, remember, as I always say, when life pushes you, stand straight, smile, and push it the heck back. Come on, get out there, fight for your dreams. Until next time, this is Anik Singal signing off.
Thanks for listening to The Fighting Entrepreneur with your host, Anik Singal.